Welcome to Pack Fast and Fly. Far. Have you ever heard of the smallest country in the world? No, it's not Monaco or Tuvalu or Vatican City. All of those places are much larger than this one. This is the country smaller than Central Park. It's about 2/3 the size of the American Museum of Natural History, and it's actually closer to New York City than it is to London. And you can visit it in just 8 hours by plane from the Big Apple. But what exactly is this place? How did it become its own country? And why should you care? Stick around till the end of this video to find out. This is an island located in the Caribbean Sea. That much is pretty obvious. What's less obvious is that this tiny dot on the map is actually the world's smallest sovereign island nation. In fact, it's so small that it doesn't even show up on most maps. The reason for this is that it's nestled between two much larger islands, Hispaniola and Cuba, right next to the ever-popular tourist destination of Cancun. If you want to get there, you need to know where to look. Before we tell you where, though, we want to tell you how. Because while the exact origins of the country are unclear, its existence can be traced back to at least the early 16th century. At some point during the colonial era, the Spanish started settling the island with African slaves, but because they were always so close to Cuba, many escaped slaves from the island ran away to Cuba rather than stay on this tiny rock in the ocean. Eventually, the Spanish crown noticed this trend and decided to officially unite the two islands into one colony called Cuba. However, this union didn't last forever. In 1842, the majority of the people living on the island wanted independence from both Spain and Cuba, so they declared themselves the Nation of Hispaniola. When the United States went to war with Spain in 1898, the island sided with the Americans. However, after the war was over and Spain had lost all of their colonies, they granted Cuba full independence. As a result, the United States also left the island, and once again it became its own independent country. However, it soon became apparent that being a sovereign island nation wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. For starters, nobody was really sure who was in charge. There were several different factions, each claiming to have the right to rule the island. Then, there was the issue of money. They had none. To make matters worse, more and more people were leaving the island, looking for better opportunities elsewhere, which meant that the government was getting desperate. They needed to do something big to attract new residents, and they came up with the perfect plan. If you were to set sail for the island today, the first thing you would notice is that the waters surrounding it are some of the clearest, most beautiful waters you've ever seen. And while that's true, it wouldn't have been true when the government launched their plan. See, they paid off several companies to come and dump their waste in the surrounding waters, creating a current that attracted sharks, which led to the closing of beaches all over the island. That created such a stir among locals that the government gave everybody free scuba gear and encouraged them to go underwater and clean up the mess. It worked like a charm. Soon, locals were proud of their waters once again, and they started to feel optimistic about the future. With that dark chapter behind them, they began trying to boost their economy by attracting tourists. Their first success story was a man named Ian Fleming, who was inspired by the island's natural beauty to write his first James Bond novel. Not long after that, Hollywood came knocking and they turned the book into a movie. Suddenly, everyone on the island was talking about the latest casting rumors and all the extras needed for the production. Pretty soon, they were earning millions from tourism alone, which allowed them to build more resorts, hire more staff, and pay off their debt. For the first time in their history, the nation was making enough money to support itself without outside help. But then a bigger problem reared its ugly head. Soon after the movie wrapped, filming crews from all over the world arrived to shoot commercials, nature documentaries, and music videos. While it was great for business, the constant stream of outsiders was becoming a nuisance. Plus, they weren't paying the locals enough for their trouble. It got so bad that the president of the nation at the time felt he had no choice but to close down the country completely, banning all foreign films and media. After a couple of years of taking a break from the chaos, though, the president eventually realized that shutting themselves off from the rest of the world wasn't helping anyone. He opened things back up, but this time he made sure to regulate everything more closely. From then on, only carefully selected projects were given permission to film on the island. This included a National Geographic documentary, a Volvo commercial, and even a music video for the Rolling Stones. It might seem like a bizarre move, but it's actually part of a larger trend among small island nations. You see, when a country is very small, its government realizes that it needs to take drastic measures to attract the attention of the world if it wants to survive. The Tourism Board of Anguilla, for example, has gone to great lengths to ensure that every beach on the island is beautiful. They regularly organize cleanup days and penalize hotels for polluting the environment. Similarly, the Maldives has banned all forms of plastic on their islands in order to protect the delicate coral reefs that surround them. In other words, if you want to live on a small island, you need to be extremely careful about how you treat your surroundings, otherwise you could destroy everything very quickly. Of course, there are other ways to attract attention as well. One of the most famous examples of this is Palau, an island nation in the Pacific Ocean that issued a series of stamps featuring endangered animals on them. Since then, they've become known as the King of Custom Stamps, and they regularly release new ones to commemorate special occasions. But let's get back to our tiny island nation. Today, it has a population of about 50,000 people, most of whom work in the service industry. The official language is Spanish, but most people also speak English, French, and German. Its currency is the US dollar, and its president is the same guy who took office back in 1996. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that. He's the world's longest-serving president. Talk about dedication. Despite having such a small population, the country has managed to produce some famous faces, including actress Zoe Saldana, singer Celia Cruz, and boxer Floyd Mayweather Jr. It also has one of the highest concentrations of millionaires in the world, thanks to all the businesses that have sprung up on the island over the years. And it's even home to a number of celebrities, including Eddie Murphy, Shaquille O'Neal, and Magic Johnson. So what exactly makes this place so special? Well, for starters, it's incredibly safe. The murder rate is about 30% lower than New York's, and violent crime is practically unheard of. It also has some of the best weather on Earth, with temperatures averaging around 80 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Add to that the fact that there are no beggars or panhandlers on the island, and you start to understand why people like to visit here. But don't think for a second that it's some kind of tax haven. The government does everything they can to encourage businesses to operate on the island, which means that there are plenty of jobs for locals. The downside is that most of these jobs don't pay very well, which is why so many people leave as soon as they're old enough. As we said earlier, the country is about the same size as Central Park, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any room for expansion. In fact, the government has been buying up neighboring islands in order to grow the country. They currently own 2/3 of an island called Sayona, and are in the process of purchasing another called Este. This would bring the total size of the country up to about 4-5 times the size of Manhattan. One of the main reasons they're doing this is to protect the environment. By owning the surrounding islands, they can keep development to a minimum and make sure that nothing gets built near the coral reefs. Another reason is that they're hoping to attract more billionaires to the island. After all, you can't build a skyscraper on an island that's only a few square miles in size. But you could certainly build one on a neighboring island and then hop on a golf cart to get to work. If you're still wondering why anybody would want to live on such a small, hot, crowded island, consider this. The country has one of the lowest cost of living in the entire Caribbean. A 3-bedroom house costs about $120 and groceries are about 30% cheaper than in the U.S. The island is a short flight away from some of the best destinations in the region. You can be on the beaches of Cancun in under 2 hours or exploring the ancient ruins of Tulum in less than an hour and a half. And if you're feeling adventurous, you could even take a day trip to Cuba, which is only an hour away by plane. So if you're tired of living in the city and you're looking for a change of pace, Maybe it's time to pack your bags and move to the smallest country in the world.